Well, a pleasure to meet you again here in Berlin. Last time was quite briefly. Is it for you kind of a home turf, shooting like in Texas where you've been born?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, most of my movies were made there. The only ones that weren't were like Desperado, Mariachi, because it took place in Mexico. Everything else has been at home. Home is where the dreams are. Home is where you just feel inspired and comfortable. And I built up a whole system of working there. They didn't really have studios there, so I started my own studio there and was able to shoot everything. And Jim had always been a fan of my operation, so when he saw what I had, he's like, "Oh yeah, make it in Austin." So we got to build that whole Iron City set. It's in my parking lot of my office down there. It's still there. It's going to last about 15 years.
Are you kidding me? It's right.
You go down there now. It's a big tourist attraction. You come into my studio. You can come to my parking lot, and you're in that city. It's like 20-foot high walls. 90,000 square feet.
I seriously didn't know that you're still like so linked to Texas for that matter, but it's impressive. I love that. So it even gives me like goosebumps,
It's pretty fun, and it's great. It inspires people when they come down, and the actors are inspired to just be in such a creative environment that it helps them do, I think, better work.
But it really seems to be like the major marketing slogan that this is a movie about empowering women. I mean, being familiar with the body of work of like James Cameron, he was always empowering women.
About that, yeah.
Sigourney Weaver, like in Aliens. I mean, I've never seen a single movie where like women were not like the strong individual. So how come that this thing is there, and how far was it actually difficult just to bring people like back to the story itself? As I said, like Christoph Waltz said so many things about what the movie is all about, and I feel like sometimes this is kind of left out because people feel like this is the time that we have to talk about that. But it's a great, like, absolutely detailed movie with so many varieties of like approaches.
Yeah, well, it feels very timely now, but it's because it's a very timeless story. When Jim was going to do this in '99, it was very timely. When he was going to make it in 2005, we needed a movie like this. And then now it feels like that still, because it's a timeless story. And when I read the script, I realized what it was. I identified with the father-daughter aspect of the story, sure, and the boy with her relationship, but mostly I identified with her. And if I could identify with a 13-year-old girl, that means it's beyond just being a female empowerment movie. It's about something that anyone could tap into, which is this universal truth and human emotion of her waking up feeling like she's insignificant because she was tossed out and from a background that maybe isn't that great, but she finds that she actually has a great inner power and the power to change the world just by how she sees the world and how she decides to see what that place could be instead of what it is. Everyone else there thinks it sucks and they all want to leave. They all want to go to Zalem, but she's the one who changes everyone she meets just by her point of view. And that's amazing. That's like a lesson you can learn at any time and age, especially like today. Like, oh yeah, this planet sucks. Or you can say, or we can inspire something better by being better people, and how we see the world can really inspire people to change the world.
As a last question, because like time's up, most of your credits actually are there as a producer more than the director. How is it actually, because John Landau apparently is like very highly involved in that. How was that process like working together on such a thing when at the same time you want to be like the creative as a director, putting everything together, but at the same time knowing actually what the producer has to do just to get all this together?
Oh, I've worked with all kinds of producers before. A friend of mine who's been through that drill before too said, "So what's that guy John Landau like?" I go, "Dude, he's a real producer. He's like the only producer he's like the only producer I can say is actually a producer. He's like, from beginning to end, he's all about supporting the vision of the director, but also he's there on every day of the shoot. He's like really helpful." I thought maybe when I first met him with Jim back on Titanic, I've known Jim a long time. I thought he was more, oh, that's cool. He's got like a really cool business-minded producer to help him because Jim's a creative. But no, John's also very creative and a real collaborator. And he speaks for Jim. Like if Jim can't be there, he can say, "I'm here speaking for Jim," because he knows Jim so well. And Jim would say that that's not quite right. We have to make that shinier or this, that. So it's like having a surrogate for Jim there. So that really helped a lot, to make this kind of bigger movie because he's been through it all. He was really helpful. Like they would give me effect shots and I would say, "Okay, let me fix this and that." John would have 10 more comments. "That doesn't match. This needs to do this." And I was like, wow, badass. Like my own Terminator over here. No, because he'd been there before. So having somebody with that kind of experience is a real pleasure. It's not You're thinking about strong-arming producers. That those are the guys who are fear-based workers. Those guys are, I don't count them as producers. John's a real producer, you know.
Thank you so much for the pleasure and honor.
Sure.
Rosa, such a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
It is very intriguing because like before that, of course, you had like a none so pleasant character that you played in Bird Box. Also, like being part of the Maze Runner trilogy, I understand you are used to the big screen as well, and also like working with big stars. But when the call came, like there's this James Cameron production it's coming up, and I heard like this entire process for you like took like 3 months.
Yes.
How was that period for you as an actress? You was like, well, either it comes, it doesn't, or otherwise like.
It comes in waves, It's one day you're very zen. Everything happens for a reason. And the next day, you're brushing your teeth, you're like, Alita. And you're taking a shower, and you're like, Alita. And you're ordering a coffee, and you're like, Alita. And it won't go away. It's peaks and valleys, for sure.
And you said, like, also you were very strict when it comes like, to the preparation.
Absolutely.
Because, like, in the minute that I saw, like, some of the, I take it as CGI part, you balancing on a finger, not spawning anything. But in general, I think that it must have been like, quite some hard work. And I really thought that you've been doing this before, even years before, that might have been like the reason that picked you. But no, you said you had to really learn everything from the ground up just for that movie?
Yes, well, I am very active. I rock climb. I was a bike messenger for years. I'm no stranger to that kind of physical exertion, but it takes a lifetime to achieve some of these things. I didn't balance on one finger. We did have a contortionist, someone who can pretzel herself. It takes a few girls to bring Alita to life. I did a lot more than I think we all were expecting in terms of martial arts, but we also had an amazing stunt woman named Mickey Facinello who has been training her entire life, and I take it this far, Mickey takes it this far, and then the CGI takes it this far because Panzerkunst is a zero-gravity fighting style, and there isn't any woman on the planet who has achieved that yet.
And for yourself, where did you set like the benchmark for the character of Alita? Because I mean, obviously, when you see her the first time, you think it's a little girl. Then going through the story, she's much older than that, and also she matures through the movie. But how was that process for you? Is it that you always you found like a common ground for yourself, or do you feel like, well, I'm a fighting old grandma kid? I mean, this must be kind of confusing, just like to find out like the right tone for the character development.
Well, what's great about this is that I had a plethora of manga to dive into, but also I needed to know what the trajectory was. Okay, where are we starting and where are we going? And Alita is growing exponentially throughout the film, as you said. I found a similarity in the formative years of a woman. So basically, Alita went through puberty. And this was a good timeline for me to sort of place each scene on. Okay, she goes from 14 to 18. Well, I know what I felt like when I was 14. I did feel like, whose body is this? This is not my body. I don't know who I am. What is happening? Who am I? Very emotional. And then we move a little bit further down the scale. Okay, now I'm a little bit more rebellious. I'm a little more confident. I'm a little more sure of myself. A little bit more. I'm gonna throw myself into crazy situations just at a whim. Move a little more. I need to know who I am. I need to find myself. And then once we, obviously there are shades of gray here. I'm just sort of hitting a few landmarks, but when we grow into a woman, this is how I said, okay, this will be the point where she finds the berserker body. And she finds the body and she says to Hugo, I feel more me. So I considered that a metamorphosis and sort of similar to the one that young women go through in their formative years.
Another thing that I would like to understand about your craft is because in the beginning, there were a lot of actors who were not really convenient with the fact like we're working in front of the green screen, saying like, oh, it's not that. Until I heard from other actors, well, that's what you keep on doing the whole time when you work on stage anyway. So in your case, I was very intrigued by the idea that you had to like actually go through this motion capture suit of yours. So does that mean, does it actually even, that you have to like do double time the work first and foremost like being the convincing character, but at the same time getting over the fact being in that suit. Usually a costume helps you to be in that role, but this one actually having even prevented you of being that. So is that kind of a double type of job that you have to do when you have to work with all these gear around yourself?
Well, the beauty of the suit is that what it does is a costume helps you transform, the makeup helps you transform, but what the suit does is it neutralizes you. It wipes the slate completely clean, so now you are creating something completely. That was a great gift, and that really turned me on. I really liked that. There were some bodily discomforts with the suit, but nothing out of the ordinary. I mean, when you go to your trailer in a hair and makeup and you have to sit like this for 3 hours because you don't want to mess anything up, this is also uncomfortable. Someone coming up to you after a scene and tugging your shirt down and putting a comb through your hair and putting a brush in your face, this is also quite annoying. But again, it's nothing out of the ordinary. You're always given something to overlook. I mean, I'm not focused on this light. I'm not focused on this camera. We're having this moment between the two of us, and this is what I focus on.
All right, and let's talk business. I know this is like the impossible question. I'm never gonna get an answer, but I just want to try because I don't want to spoil anything. The end of the movie kind of gives you the idea something else could happen. So are you under kind of a contract that would say like, you know, as we do in Avatar 1 to 4 anyway, we're just going to do some more sequels? How big of a chance is it that we might see another Battle Alita, Battle Angels Alita?
Well, it depends on how many of you see the movie. So if we find our audience, if people go to the theater and experience Alita and fall in love with Alita, there's more of a chance of that happening. But we made this movie to stand on its own. Obviously, there is so much possibility because Yukito Kishiro's work is so expansive. Of course, Gundam, the first series, but also Last Order, and now Mars Chronicles, which go way back into Alita's childhood days. These movies could go on forever, and with the performance capture technology, I could shoot them forever.
All right, you did your homework when it comes to the books. Thank you so much, Rosa. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. I appreciate it.